Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Impact. Man, I am so excited about today's program, and I have a very, very special guest with me, and I know you're going to enjoy drawing from him and what he has to say. He's really become someone for me that I'm watching from afar, probably I think one of the greatest young pastors in our area, in the Hampton Roads area, and so I'm really happy to introduce, for those of you who don't know, Pastor Steve Bellavia. Is that right?
Yep.
Steve
Bellavia.
Bellavia. So we get that last name right. Hey, Pastor Steve, thanks so much for joining me today on Let's Talk Impact. Man, I am honored to have you.
Well, I'm honored to be here with you, Pastor.
It's fascinating. It's kind of neat how we met. He reached out to me, and his church was meeting in a theater, and we kind of talked about what to do next. And this was way before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And we were having lunch together, and God just kind of dropped some things in both of our spirits about some space we had available in our shopping center. And because I remember what I said to you that day, Pastor Steve. I said, man, if I was in your shoes, I'd raise up leaders.
Yeah.
And watching you, I think you are one of the just the up and coming young pastors that is just really raising up leaders. And I don't want to tell your whole story, but that happened. You began to do some things, and then God opened some other doors for you in Suffolk. So why don't you fill the audience in on kind of what happened?
Sure.
With the Suffolk campus.
Yeah, we were. So I came on when the church at the time, it was called 3 in 1, was about 7 months old. And we spent 10 years in a movie theater. We
Wow.
were faithful where we were planted, and I took over as lead pastor. We didn't have a whole lot of options at the time, and God put me and you together, and so it opened up opportunity for us to sort of have like an annex, just an extra space in the shopping plaza for life outside of Sundays. And then during that time, God opened up another opportunity out in Suffolk where we were able to launch another campus out there, and a church kind of merged into us. There was maybe 25 or so that were there at the time, and some of them have stayed and some moved on, but we took over that and renovated that as well. And so now we have a campus in both areas, Portsmouth, North Suffolk, and kind of way out Suffolk. And God's done some incredible things, and just thankful for it.
I tell you, I walked in, I was invited to your opening service there in Suffolk, and I was just so impressed, first of all, with your leadership.
Thanks,
and
Pastor.
Then with your team, your staff, your volunteers are just absolutely amazing. Relate Church now that you've renamed the church Relate Church, and we've both kind of gone through that.
Yeah.
We went from Parkway to Impact Church, so I guess it's just that season. And then your team is just amazing, and that what you guys have done in that facility for that opening service was just absolutely
Thank you.
amazing. And it's a beautiful place, and I just applaud you
Appreciate
what
it,
God
Pastor.
is doing. Hey, I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
Let's we're both pastoring in uncertain times. This is really a different for all of us, and that is trying. I know you guys are doing some in-person stuff, and we've decided to strictly stay virtual, mainly because a lot of in our congregation, that's kind of what they've chosen and relate to me. And so I think what's really we celebrate we talk a lot about diversity in our meetings and our conversation,
Yeah.
and I think the church is in a different day.
Yeah.
Some feel comfortable doing in person. Some, feel comfortable doing the virtual, and there's no right or wrong
Right. Right.
about it because every congregation is different. But I wanted to get some feedback from you about what you're seeing happening with the local church
Hmm.
during this pandemic. I mean, we're approaching 10, 11 months now
Yeah, it's crazy.
with this pandemic, and I just kind of want, as a young leader, what do you see happening in the day for the local church?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's been a challenging season. I mean, if you talk to a pastor that says that it wasn't challenging, then I probably don't believe a lot of what they're saying, because it's been, you have the pandemic, but also really racial tensions and political
Right.
unrest and just everything kind of wrapped into a season. And so I think that it's been a challenging season, but a pruning season as well. I think
Yeah.
within churches in our area, there's some that had to kind of get things going, some that didn't have online services that all of a sudden
Right.
had to develop that. Some online giving, I mean, we had online giving, but it was probably maybe 60% of our total giving, and now it's probably 95%, or
Right.
more. So it's been, kind of, whenever there's challenges, there's also opportunity, and so it's pruned. I think there's some churches that maybe weren't as fruitful as they needed to be, that they kind of needed that pressure to evolve and change and grow, and some of the things that they looked at as sort of like a negative evolution of the church being online, or
Right.
virtual giving or things like that, they had to embrace them if they were going to sustain. But it's definitely increased all of our impact, using your name,
Yeah.
impact in the from a virtual standpoint as well.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I think one of the things that I've noticed that it's done for the church is that we have become so dependent
Hmm.
on our Sunday morning, and I'm not saying this in a negative sense, but almost our Sunday morning performance or Sunday
Right.
morning presentation, maybe a
Hmm.
better word. That we become so dependent on that, and that's what people were drawing to. And what I've seen it happen is that it's made us re-examine ourselves. Really, what is our mission?
Right.
One of the things that we did when we changed the name of our church from Parkway to Impact Church is that we refocused on our mission, and
Hmm.
our mission is about now is it's about exalting Jesus and
Amen.
equipping
Yeah.
disciples and engaging our neighbors. So we got to kind of if you like um, a microscope in a sense, is that you have to focus in a little bit. Not that we weren't exalting Jesus, and
Sure.
not
Sure.
that we weren't, trying to equip disciples
Hmm.
or engage our neighbors, but we were putting so much energy and so much of our time regarding what we did on Sunday morning
Hmm.
that it. I'm not sure that it allowed us. When you are focusing on several things,
Hmm.
you never really become excellent in
That's right.
anything.
Yep.
And I think what this has allowed, Impact Church to do is now let's re-examine why are we doing what we're doing,
Yeah. Hmm.
and is it making a kingdom difference, and
Right. Right. Is it fruitful?
is that something that you've seen?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, asking the question, is it fruitful? Is it something that is going to travel with us as we evolve. We, because of the fact that we are really only a 10-year-old church.
Right.
We're 2 years old as far as becoming Relate Church, but I served in a church that was 100+ years,
Right.
years ago in New York, and you realize that you have a lot of stuff that just sort of you carried with you, like
Right.
kind of like not moving from the same house for many years.
Yeah.
And you don't really want to get rid of it, but you don't have any pressure to get rid of it, really.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
know that it's not anything you use or is fruitful for, so I think the pandemics caused churches to reevaluate, why do we still have that when it's not growing, it's not healthy, it's not, beneficial to where we're going.
Right.
Are we just keeping it around because we've always had it that way, or is it going to travel with us, and are we going to have is it going to have life after this is done?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the positives I do think as well.
Me too. I think God's given us a fresh start with
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
This is how there is a lot of hard times, a lot of negatives.
Definitely.
We are really striving now to just kind of reconnect with everybody and trying to build relationships. And,
Definitely.
We work so hard on producing good content that now one of the things that we're striving to do is focus on building relationships. So,
Sure.
I've encouraged my staff. I'm instructing them, hey, reach out, touch people. And it's been refreshing, the phone calls, or the FaceTime meetings or the Zoom meetings,
Right.
or just seeing people. And so it's really kind of a fresh start for us to be able to see really what's important, which I think you used the word in the beginning, pruning. I think we are seeing some pruning coming to the church. And I do believe, especially this next generation, and I celebrate the fact, you guys are, only 10 years old, 2 years being Relate Church. This past January, we celebrated our 89th year as a church.
Man.
We were started by 7 women who just wanted a church that really made a difference in their community. And one of the things that I have tried to do, even in the fact that we're now building a brand, and people are questioning me, you're building a brand new building in the middle of a pandemic. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna nobody's ever called me the smartest or the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I do feel like, man, this is an opportunity to really demonstrate to the next generation. And I know your church is really made up of a lot of younger people, which I think is just marvelous. But it's a fresh start. It gives every church, no matter what, the opportunity to be able to say, hey, let's do something different.
Yeah,
let's take
that's
a
right.
risk.
That's right.
Let's kill that thing that we've been carrying, as you said, a long time. Kill that thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's what's really, I guess, the exciting part. And so you have to balance out the weight of what we're going through as leaders, as pastors, trying to make sure that we are, doing everything we can to really make an impact and make a difference in people's lives. And that kind of leads me to the last thing I really wanted to talk about today. We see what's happening today. What do you think the church is going to look like?
Yeah.
Really coming out of the pandemic?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I think some of it is going to I think our online experience and our online content is going to be a lot stronger than we ever thought before. I think basically in the past you would have online as like really your attenders just having another opportunity if they're out of town or they're
Right.
sick. And I mean, I remember years ago we would do we'd have like a tape ministry, you know, and like
Yeah.
you'd
Right.
record and then you'd send it to your shut-ins or things like
Yeah.
that, you know,
Right.
going back 20 plus
You're
years
showing some
ago.
of your age.
Yeah.
There.
But we would do those sort of things, and it really was just a supplement to,
Right.
you need to be there on Sunday. I think having value in our online experience and finding out ways to still encourage serving
Right.
within that online experience. We've tried to push, I guess, a little bit more some of our people to, if you're not in the house, to own that space, welcome
Yeah.
people when they come in to the service, you know,
Right.
greet them if they say something, like their comments, and just to make that online experience a little bit more I don't know, welcoming or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's gonna, I do believe that that online experience and then our on demand
Right.
is going to increase drastically.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that even in the way TV is. There was a time where we all loved to gather around to watch
Right.
something live, and now we like the on demand. And so that's gonna increase drastically. People are going to be a little bit more cautious in what are some of the safety protocols and things like that that you have in place, and we're experiencing some of that even now.
Yeah.
You know,
We opened for about 6 weeks, and we experienced that, and people were very appreciative of what we tried to do.
Sure.
We took temperatures when people walked in, insisted on wearing masks and different things that we just felt were important to our church and what we felt like needed to happen. But yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the things that we're seeing is people like yourself, your voice is going to have a greater reach than you've ever had before.
That's good.
Because I think God is going to use you. I think God is going to raise, you up and raise people like you, young pastors, like you, to be able to, reach people around the world.
Yeah.
I know we had some of our, people, being in the military area that we live in, we had people that were in Japan. We had people in Italy in different, at certain times. And we were their church. They would invite people to their home, and as you said, on demand, they would cut the service on and watch it with their neighbors, watch it with their friends.
Good.
And it was like that. This is our church.
Yeah.
And so it made our presence, our voice, far more reaching without the expense of television. I mean,
definitely.
I've got friends that are, who are on television and the cost, the expense of that. But, what we can do with the internet and what we can do, with Facebook,
you're right.
YouTube, and those kinds of tools that we have, it really does present itself to make sure. And, for me, I kind of go back to it. I think it's important that, our content is good, but I think the challenge is going to be is how to build relationships.
Right.
And that may come through small groups. That may come through, select gatherings or whatever we have to do to continue to build relationships, because I think God created his church to be relational.
Right.
And so, I don't know that it's fully understood what it's going to look like, but I do feel like God's allowed this to happen, because I don't believe God put sickness on us. I don't think
Right.
but I do believe what the scripture says. What the enemy is meant for harm, God turns it to good.
Amen.
And I do believe that we're living in an opportunity, to be able to, okay, really, how do we build relationships? So now I have to be more intentional.
Right.
It's not just something that happens. I have to be intentional about reaching out to my neighbor. I mean, just this week, I've called a couple of our folks and I just text one, and he said, "Hey, man, do you have a few minutes to talk?" And I said, "Absolutely, let's talk." And he needed to talk because his job is so stressful.
Right.
Because he works in the education systems and a university, and all of a sudden now it's like they don't know. And my brother's the same way. They don't know if their university is going to be open tomorrow or not because of the way this pandemic is hit. And so that kind of stress, they just need somebody to talk to for a minute.
Right. That's
they
true.
need somebody to be in a relationship with. They need to know they're not out there by themselves. So I do believe that it really, for me, it's an opportunity for us to be more intentional about our relationships.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's something I think that we missed, or an opportunity that we miss, is that we thought that just seeing somebody on Sunday meant that we were really being relational, and it really just caused us to check something off the list and say,
right,
well, I saw them on Sunday, I was in proximity to them, I didn't have any relationship with them, but I was in proximity, so we write it off. And now when you don't have that proximity, it causes that tension to say, man, do I really have relationships with somebody? Am I really in their life? Who is my squad around me that notices when I'm not there? And I think some people within our body even realize that they didn't roll that deep. They didn't have a lot of people that were surrounding them. So I mean, if you give in our church, we know who you are, and so there's a pulse that way. But really, unless you're serving or in relationships, that's really where the protectiveness comes, and I think people are realizing, man, I attended, but I didn't really have a wall around my relationships.
My mind immediately goes to the book of Acts in the early church, and that's what made it was called the way,
right.
Called the church. They were called the way, and what it demonstrated is they were all about having people in, having dinner together, fellowshipping. They were house churches and things like that. And I don't believe the gathering of the church in our buildings will ever go away.
Right.
But I do believe it's going to make us become more intentional about, hey, loving our neighbors, bringing them in. Hey, and we're seeing this now because we have a meeting, but several in our congregation have gotten COVID, and I mean really sick.
Wow.
And so we're like, hey, how do we take them a meal? How do we take care of our people? And so now we're being more intentional about really loving on people. And I think it's an exciting time. We can either throw up our hands and quit and say, you know what, it's never going to be like it used to be, or we can embrace the change and say, man, let's find a way to expand the kingdom of God.
Amen.
Very much like they did in the book of Acts.
Hey,
Steve, listen, man, I cannot thank you enough for being a part of this Let's Talk Impact. I really want to continue to have you on from time to time because I think you bring so much, and I can't wait to see everything that God's going to do through you and through Relate Church. And
Well, I
I
appreciate it.
celebrate you, brother. I celebrate what God is doing in you and your wife, Shelly. And she's for those of you who are not familiar, he married up.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
he like we all did.
Mhm.
And an amazing worshiper, amazing
Yeah.
voice. She is sang for us, and really and truly tell Shelly that I said
I
hello
will.
and love you guys, and
Love you
just
too, Pastor.
let Relate Church know we're praying for you guys,
Yeah.
and can't wait to see everything God does through you.
Thanks,
So for
Pastor.
those of you that are tuned in, whatever time, I know some tune in later.
Hmm.
Have a great day, knowing that we're praying for you. We love you guys, and that we'll be back with Let's Talk Impact next Tuesday at 2:00. All right, Steve. We'll talk to you very soon.
Thanks, Pastor. Appreciate it.
All right.